So today we are looking at fullbacks. We did centre backs yesterday. What are the best fullbacks for today? Now, this is a position that has got massive improvements that are needed to happen. Yes, we could look at the amount of icons that you've got. You just look at half of them. I haven't included them in here because half of people are not spending 1.6 mil on Carlos Alberto. And unfortunately you're not. And even if you go further down, like 500 on Lahm, I would much rather take the 500 and go and whack it on a striker personally. So we'll kind of leave the icons out and bring them in the next few weeks. And maybe even when we get our first icon pack, that might be the option, even though it more than likely is going to be like a max 88. So in general, there is a lot of kind of fullbacks that you can go with, some brilliant ones that we've thrown in. And I think the first one, because he was the SBC, Reece James, a solid old unit that most definitely can play pretty much for a while, I would say, because when we do look at him in general, you see him at 41,000 and you think, okay, well, he's 41,000 worth of an SBC. It's really not that much for a starter. So if you're looking for coins, head over to eldorado.gg. There is huge amounts of verified sellers on Eldorado, and there is a money back guaranteed by Trade Shield. If that's not enough, there is 24/7 live support and also plenty of reviews across websites that will definitely put your mind at ease. And as always, before you check out, make sure that you are using the code JT11 for 5% off every single order. Back to the video. When you do consider some of the SBCs we've had in the past, you think of the player of the months straight off the bat asking $1 million for Ronaldo, the same for Haaland, it becomes an impossible task. 40,000 coins for a right back. If you look in the Premier League, there isn't that many right backs that I'd say easily debatable, way better. Like, you look at him, he's the most expensive right back other than Heroes. You've got Frimpong next to him, who I think is good. He's the one that I've got untradeable, but he really isn't that crazy. Like, James is a solid defender at best when it comes to it. He's got himself the Fullback plus, the Fullback plus, and the inverted wingback plus, which I think is more than fine again. I personally really like the Fullback, so he certainly goes in my style, and that's a big question for everybody to ask. What do you personally prefer with the defenders? You've got both for the left back, right back. You've got fullback on balance. You've obviously got then wing back, fullback, attacking wing back, and inverted. So personally for me, I feel like a lot of people will always go for the fullback. Potentially, depending on like someone like Grimaldo is going to be way better at the wing back and attacking wing back. But that's a certain style. I personally like that in a 5-back rather than necessarily a standard 4. So it's definitely all dependent on what you want to go with. Now, if I was going with Reece James, I'd most definitely be looking at the minimum in that very usable. Now, there's not necessarily going to be a crazy amount of top metas. I do think fullbacks are most definitely the harshest position to possibly grade at, because naturally there isn't that many this year. Theo Hernandez has had a massive drop off this year compared to his Serie A run. Now, I'm not saying these are totally unusable. These are just not the best of the best when we do consider them. Realistically, when we do look at Frimpong as well, another one that comes in the Prem, and probably the only other Prem right back that I'd possibly say is worth a crazy mention. Now, some can play both. We've got Ola coming from Forest, who can play both positions. Frimpong in himself, solid pace, which is amazing. It kind of gives me that Walker vibe. I feel like Walker would just be an Evo at this point, but there's no Evos in kind of transition to really put him anywhere near that. But realistically, we're looking at the Sentinel, and you think, okay, well, he's got a lot of pace, but realistically, is he that great? Yes, he's going to be more of the wingback plus, which is going to be fantastic. And maybe even in a right mid, he could definitely do a job. But he's just a standard card. Now, for the start of the game, I definitely think he puts himself up there. But he will be one very much like last year. He needs an upgrade pretty quickly. Now, obviously, Liverpool doing pretty well, minus the 2 defeats that they've had recently. I imagine he will get some sort of special card at some point soon, so I don't think we'll be waiting too much longer. Ola, on the other hand, I think is kind of like a very bog standard starter left back, right back, I suppose, at the minimum. Now, when you kind of look at him in terms of what he's actually got, he again is going to be another one that is very pace orientated. But even when you do look at the defending side of stuff, pace is at 88, defending at 78, physical at 75. It's really just the dribbling side of stuff that really lets himself down here. And I don't know where the compare button is here. I'll find it at some point. But if you do find the comparisons between some players, We look at him. We got a P, Evolutions, Chemistry. I can never find where it is. I found the Generations now, at least. But if we look at similar, I can imagine, is he going to be there? You'd have thought Frimpong would definitely be one that would be next to him. But regardless, you kind of see him and think, well, is he really that much worse than someone like Frimpong? Because stats-wise, similar. Very similar. Passing is only 3 off. Dribbling is the considerable one at 9 less, but more defending, more physical, just a few little bit pace left. And it's probably only because Liverpool, Dutch, you've kind of got the more favoured links there that you'd possibly only drop him down. And naturally, that's going to be the case for a lot of players in general. Then obviously you've kind of got a few more when you look at someone like, who would we go for the top? I think Hakimi definitely puts himself in there, but again is a very big question mark on whether he is the top of the top. He's got a massive rating upgrade at 89. It's fair enough. At 215,000, I think you'd definitely be inflated just because of the price of him. And naturally, the team that you could throw around him, the Dembeles, the Doués, the Kvaratskhelia. You obviously got Pacho with a big upgrade. Then you obviously throw a Marquinhos in there. It's going to be a great squad. But is he a great player? Now, he does have a nice kind of almost balanced aspect. He may not be crazy high rated on some things, but he's got wonderful pace. He's got solid dribbling. Defending is good enough. You throw the anchor on him. He's a lot better, in my opinion, than you do look at the likes of Frimpong. So for me, he would definitely be more of the staple right back that would go into that top meta. And naturally, that's just going to be the case for a lot of high-rated cards. You do look at then a brand new upgrade of a card in Di Lorenzo. He's got 2 different versions. He's got his 83 now and his Cornerstone, which is 85. It's a solid upgrade for him. We look at him in terms of the stats, it's like a double inform as such, 2s across the board, 3s on a few things. It's nice. The 83 is a standard. It's a Serie A right back that will do enough, but the Cornerstone definitely puts himself in a nice category. You've got himself with some good pace. He's got an array of pluses, which is nice. Still not necessarily my personal favourite without the fullback, and he can also play that centre-back role. So the versatility of him is going to be one that is nice, and especially with something like the Gauntlet, he may not be a starter centre-back, right-back for your Serie A team in the absolute pinnacle of champions, but maybe a cheeky Gauntlet. You've already got, say, a Reece James in there, you're throwing a Serie A team. I mean, he's not going to be the worst option you could go for, especially if you do have him untradeable. I'd look at very usable there and a very standard usable when it comes to his 83. Now, if we kind of go through another Serie A, I think Dimarco going the other side is another one that's very similar. He's going to be a specific build because he is very much orientated around that attacking wingback, the wingback that bombs forward and gets back. As you can see, a little bit of shooting from him, some great passing, some dribbling, and even then, not terrible defending physical. And we're talking start of the game. Like, I'm not expecting people with 85, 86 on the defending physical and then still having their 88 dribbling. Of course, the stats are going to be a little bit lower. So it's why you would see a card like this and think, yeah, he's most definitely usable. You can throw him in there. 86, 83 in the defending, 85 overall on that fullback role. Easily in that very usable market. And another one, if we go left backs, we've obviously got Cucurella. Another one that I would say is just more of your cheaper option. 1.5k, standard 84. I must admit, one of the most unimpressive 84s I've seen for quite some time. The pace is standard. Defending's good for a fullback. Physical's nice. Dribbling's decent, but it is going to be just, unfortunately, going towards that pace side of stuff. At least giving him the 80 would have made him at least marketable to some extent. I think for an 84 to be 1.5k this early on, we can see even Dimarco at 4.5k. I think that's where I'd kind of personally put him. And I think another great opponent that you'd throw there, Undogi, a solid option that you can go with. He's obviously, well, I mean, is he extinct? I didn't think he was. It might just be the market. I was going to say, he's normally like a few thousand coins. I don't know if Xbox having a problem, but he's normally like 2 to 3, maybe 4,000 coins. Started the game at 10, 11, and he's a standard card. Got great pace. You can obviously throw the anchor on him, keep him lengthy. 91, 80, 83. That's good enough in my opinion. I think that would be a more appropriate level for him, in my opinion, that really would kind of show. So I think with Cucurella, I'd definitely go into kind of like a bog standard. I don't know if I'd quite miss any of these cards because they are all good in their own right, but it's always a little bit questionable. Now, if we were looking at probably the only other right back that I would personally say really competes against Hakimi is going to be this man. He's always been a right back. As much as centre mid is absolutely solid. The versatility on him is commendable, to say the least, but he always gets lumped as a right back. And to be honest, I still think even now, you could put him in either position and he'd do very well. Fullback, inverted wing back, wide playmaker, box to box plus. He's got a whole host of different talents, and even going in for just the normal 84, it's not as if these stats are a crazy jump from his base gold card, hence why he's 60,000 as an 84. He's just a very nice inform, to say the least. So I do think when you do look at his inform, I'd definitely have to go into that top meta, and I'd possibly be jumping between the lines on the 84 as that solid right back that gets involved. If then we look at a couple of the females, looking at someone like Batcher this year, again another one that's nice enough. I think 88, 85 rated was good, 18,000 coins with the whipped pass plus. We know that crosses are slightly back. I mean, if you can definitely get that touch on and get a volley, you're more than likely getting a goal this year, but we can score a few headers if you've got that precision heading plus. There's most definitely a level that you can get behind that. But when you do look at the whipped pass, the stats, great pace, obviously then the dribbling coming in, great agility balance. She is most definitely going to be somebody that is more on the attacking wingback side of stuff. I think fantastic. And then you do look at the kind of counterpart in the PSG for the ladies in Karchawi and Sakina, coming in at 56, very similar, no playstyle plus, but impeccable dribbling, impeccable passing. She's going to be somebody that can play that cam role as well, which versatility wise is absolutely outrageous. And when we do finally get the upgrades for her, is a potential to really put herself up there. Now, she obviously is in the centre mid this year, but I do think as a left back, you could definitely get a lot out of her. She really is going to be that sort of level, in my opinion anyway. And just because I want to put myself through a bit more misery, if you did manage to get into that debut icon and get yourself a cheeky Marcelo, you have absolutely hit the jackpot with him, because he is absolutely fantastic. He's obviously an 85, goes up to the 89 and looks incredible. His stats are solid across the board. Now, I'm not saying he's better than the icon version of him. His icon is just incredible, but to have a colour this compared to some of the really low versions, I really would have put Marcelo at such a high level with this, and most definitely is one of the better options that you can get in the debut. Now obviously there's going to be better cards that you could possibly get in terms of your R9, your Henry, your Zlatan, but in terms of kind of that high level but in the defensive zone, because everybody wants attackers, let's be real, he's definitely one of the better options you can figure out on this one. Which leads me to possibly the left back that is going to be most definitely featured when it comes to icons, becomes to heroes, is going to be Nuno Mendes. Outrageous. Quick step plus, already given himself a very good base layer. Yes, the defending physical is taking that hit. He's got solid amounts of dribbling, passings, decent enough, could do with some work. You throw again like kind of Frimpong, the sentinel on him, it at least throws him up there. And I do think when it comes to left backs, we've not necessarily got a crazy amount, like we've already kind of alluded to. There's only a few that I would say are really worth this question. Undogi, most definitely up there. Yuri, I would have gone higher if he managed to get the upgrade, but to be fair, I must admit, Pepe is a phenomenal price for what you paid for him, for what you actually get back, is absolutely brilliant. Now, obviously, kind of looking at a few of the other left backs, you've obviously got the likes of Furlan Mendy and also Balde. Two very big giants in this, and I do think Furlan Mendy is great. I think he's definitely not as good as what we've seen in previous years, compared to he was easily that slot. Like, he's definitely still expensive to some extent. Like, we're now seeing the lower end of him. The market is most definitely coming down. But when we do look at Balde, the links that he can get, especially now having someone like Pinner, who's absolutely shot in popularity over the past couple of days, then looking at your Pateus, your Bonmati, the links there for obviously the Barca and also then for Spanish is going to be commendable. And yes, I would say both of them are going into that usable category. But there is a now debate that potentially you'd possibly choose Balde over Mendy. And that really doesn't take away from Mendy, because Furlan Mendy in the Real Madrid squad, unless you've got the Marcelo to take over that past and present, is still incredible. Robinson would definitely go into the usable. And I think another one coming from the Liverpool lot He's not necessarily had the most amazing start in the world, but Kirkes is going to be one of them ones that throws himself in that category. We saw it most definitely from last year. He really put a kind of stamp on his name, getting himself into the team of the season, the future stars, the informs. He definitely started where he kind of hopefully continues. And like Frimpong, the fact that he's in Liverpool, the fact that he's in the Premier League, we more than likely will see more upgrades in a quote-unquote better team, a higher rated team in EA standpoints, and more than likely will fill out that defending, fill out that dribbling, because the pace is already at a solid level for him. So I do think he's going to be one of them ones that I would put him as a very low, very usable, but he needs the upgrades to really kind of stand up on that sort of level, in my opinion anyway. Then obviously we've got some of the oldies and goldies. You've obviously got the likes of Carvajal, who is gripping onto this final level. Now, more than likely a moment or something like that. He will get an upgrade at some point. I think he's a very standard card. I don't think he's necessarily going too crazy. And I must admit, Cancelo is another one this year that is nice in the Saudi League. I don't think he's totally out the question, but when it comes to being in that very meta, very kind of usable category, I'd be looking at a very low budget more so than anything. And to be honest, the same as Gvardiol as well. I think another one at 84, he's a standard card, he's got the stats, he can play the centre-back, which is going to be more kind of for his role at 6'1". I think he's going to be much better there at the block level. So as a fullback, I don't think it's really any shade for him that he's there, but I most definitely think he will inevitably fill in his role as a potential centre-back. Which then leaves us with an Alphonso Davies, kind of not been really relevant to the extent that he was the left back you went for. When you had that Chelsea Conte, you knew that a CDM gold, you wanted him there. Alphonso had that period where the Bayern team was absolutely glowing. He was the left back. There was maybe one or two of the left backs, your Marcelos. Then obviously you look at kind of like your Evras at kind of a later stage. You had him as the one. A little bit less now. I think he definitely suits an attacking wing-back role. So if you're going for the 5-back in the Bundesliga, he's most definitely going to be up there. But he, again, will drop very, very quickly, in my opinion. Which is another one that dropped. Dumfries, 1.8. Now, I know the numero foot really shot this card. It's not like he was exceptional from the get-go. I think in terms of looking at your Di Lorenzos, once he does get that upgrade, he definitely will be back to his best. I think the standard starter card, 1.8, I'd just put him quite next to Di Lorenzo at this point anyway. Which then gives us a Grimaldo. We'll go back to the informs, and another one that is going to be more your attacking wing-back. He's going to be that kind of staple of a left-back that throws in, but very standard. Very, very standard on this card. The pace is not quite on that level, in my opinion, for an attacking wingback. So I think once we start to see a bit of an upgrade there, I know he got a 6 for his inform. They weren't going to go too crazy with that, but I don't think I'd kind of have him over my Alphonso at this point. I think Alphonso, even with that pace level and then necessarily slower, kind of lower rates on the defending, is going to be better than Grimaldo. I think Grimaldo's pretty much only at the price he's at because he's in inform. So let's throw in a bit of Theo, because naturally he's going to be one that I expected everybody to be wanting. And to be honest, moving to the Saudi was always going to lower that expectation. But then having the French nation would still keep him alive a little bit, which I think is why he's still 40,000. I think if he was any other nation with not necessarily crazy links, he would be dropped down a hell of a lot more. But he still comes in quite nice. I just don't think he personally is my fan favourite going into the top meta anymore. And then we'll kind of go from one Frenchman to the other. We've obviously got Kounde coming in at a whopping price. Another one that is absolutely insane in that role. Now, he can play centre-back, but kind of like the height difference, I personally would have him as that right-back. Arejo can play right-back as well, but I would have him as that centre-back instead. I think Kounde puts himself in a very kind of good category across the mix. If you've kind of played with that Barca team, he plays that right back well, really, really well. And I think the jockey for me coming for the wingers, because they like to cut inside, is going to be another fan favourite playstyle plus, in my opinion, that works really, really well in this. And then, to be honest, with the final few, I'd go into a slightly usable. I think the squad foundation cards, the fact that they're kind of on that lower rated side, but they're free, they're easy objectives, they might even be an SBC, they're easy to get along with, and you could potentially start your team from the ground up with them sort of levels. So let me know down below what you think about all of these. Let me know down below who you're playing with. Are you going attack and wingback style, or are you going for that fullback? Leave it in the comment section below, and I'll catch you all tomorrow for either CDM, centre mids, or cams. Peace!